My name is Bill Stats, I'm with Brewing Solutions, and today I want to demonstrate for you on my home brewing system. It's a 10-gallon batch system, how to brew a Kolsch. This particular batch I'm only doing 5 gallons. So why don't we come over here and take a look at, the pumps are already primed and the pilots are already going. But let's go ahead and get these started. I'm going to start the HLT here. That'll start the recirculation on the HLT. And as we get around the back, as you can see, we've got our recirculation going on the HLT. And then on the mash, I'll turn this mash on. And as you can see, we don't have this connected yet, but this is our mash recirculation and Sparge Arm. And what I'm going to do is I set this. You can adjust it to the center as well as up to the height. But since for right now we don't have all of the grain in here yet, we haven't reached the temperature. I'm going to tighten this up since it's adjusted to the center, and we'll slip that off to the side. Lid back on it, and then we'll get it programmed up and ready to start working now. So we're circulating both of them. Shows it on the controller here. Now we go into the mash program selection, and I want to demonstrate here. This will hold. These are some fictitious programs I've put in the past, showing other people, but it holds up to 9 programs. So we'll go back to 1. And with this, I'm going to want 20 minutes at 136 degrees, and I'm going to go for 50 minutes at 150. So it'll be a 2-step process. So I want to select this, and let's modify it. So in the modify, I can run this time up and down, and when I select it, and then the temperature. So it's easy to, this is a very easy program to run. And then it goes to step 2. Step 2, I said I wanted 50 minutes, so I'm going to go to 50 minutes at a temperature of 150. Again, we can go up or down, anywhere we want, below it. And then step 3, if we don't want a step 3, we just hit 0. Anything with a 0 for the rest, for the time, is not a step. So that's how you do it. 1-step, you would just program this up. A 2-step, you program both of these, and for a 3-step, you program these. So I'm going to select this. This will be my 2-step program now, and I want to run it. Now, HLT temperature come up. This is a global reading. You can raise or lower here if you want. If you don't want, you just select it. Strike temp offset. This is if you want your strike temperature to be a little bit higher than your actual first step rest temperature. I find that with just 9 pounds or 10 pounds of grain that I'm putting in, I really don't need an offset, so I'm not going to increase it. But you can offset this by a few degrees up and down if you want, and what that'll do is when it tells you to dough in, it'll be that much higher than your first step. And then when you silence the alarm, it'll go down to that first step temperature. That way when you dough your grain in, you'll drop the temperature down and you'll be at the appropriate temperature at the start point. So I'm going to select 0 for this. Conversion check, if we were to select on, it'll stop at the end of the mash. It'll hold the mash temperature and it'll ask you to do a starch conversion check. So if you're unfamiliar with your recipe, this is a good way to go, and it'll hold indefinitely there until you decide manually to go on. Otherwise, if we select conversion check off, once we're done with the last step in the rest, it'll immediately go to the mash out without asking for the hold. So we're going to just say conversion check off for this point. Mash out, I want 10 minutes at 100, so and this again is adjustable. 10 minutes at 165, we'll go 168 degrees. And minimum sparge time, I use this to help me remember towards the end of the sparge that, hey, you know, let's check, either possibly turn the heat off and or check what's going on in the boil kettle as far as the sparge. It also is a safety feature to keep you from accidentally turning off your HLT temperature right after you turn off your mash temperature. Anyway, I'm going to go with a minimum sparge time of, let's go down to 30 minutes or 40. Let's try that. And now we will start running the program. Notice that both the mash and HLT are on. These are our current temperatures. And if you want to take a look at our burners, you'll see that our burners are now going. Okay, so we're approaching our first step temperature of 136. We're at 135.5, 135.6. Dough in silence has started. So it'll hold, it'll stop at this point and hold. Now if I had put in a offset temperature for the dough in, it would have gone to the 136 plus whatever offset I had in there. So if I had 2 degrees, it would have gone to 138 and asked me to dough in. You can see that the heat is off now. And once I silence this, then the set point will revert from the first step plus the offset temperature to just the first step. So I'm going to go ahead and dough in now. Mix it up good, get rid of all those dough balls. Now at this point, we adjust the Sparge Arm back to the middle, and as you can see I can adjust it up or down. We don't want it up like that because that will, we want the right there just above the grain where we don't get any aeration. And now we're ready. So this is finished. We're doughed in, we're recirculating our mash now through the system, and we'll put the lid on to keep the heat in. And on the front side, we're still at dough in silence. We're at our temperature of 135, and our sparge is at our temperature of 168. You can see our HLT is off. It will now, it's asking for dough in start. When I hit the dough in start, since I'm finished, this is starting the timer. If you remember, we had 136, and we're calling out for heat here. It'll bring it back up, and our initial rest is at 20 minutes. Okay, we're at step 1 rest. You see that the rest time now, we're down to 1 minute. Actually, it just turned to 1 minute, maybe 20 seconds ago. So when this counts down, that'll be when it hits 0, it'll be the end of our step 1 rest. And then it'll go to the warm-up phase to go to the step 2. You see our HLT is maintaining 170 degrees, and we're at our step 1 temp of 136. We're now in the warm-up phase of step 2. So we're at 136. Our controller is calling for heat, and it will drive that heat up to our next step of 150 and then start the timer there. And one thing I did forget to do is I'll go ahead and plug our float switch in so that when we're ready to start doing the louder, it's ready to go. And you can see that our temp now is starting to come up because our heat is on. And I've got that set for roughly 2 degrees Fahrenheit a minute. Okay, we're coming up on the second step now. You can see we're at 149.2. We're still in the warm-up mode. When it hits 149.5, it'll officially go to start the timer. And see our HLT still at 170. And okay, as you can see, we're now step 2, 150 degrees. HLT still at 170. We're just under now 1 minute of rest. And when it gets to 0, it will then immediately go to the mash out, since we elected not to do the conversion check. Okay, so end of our mash. We're now at the warm-up phase again, and it will drive up to 168, where it'll start the 10-minute timer for the mash out, and then we'll start our sparge process. Okay, we are at 167 now. Our mash out temperature is 168. We should be seeing it right about now change. So our rest timer now, we're at 167.7. As you see, boom, turn off the heat, and we started our 10-minute timer for the rest. So we are at mash out. Almost at the end of the mash out. You can see our rest is now down to 1 minute. We're holding the 168 degrees with our HLT at 170. And when this timer has elapsed 10 minutes, then we'll turn the mash heat off, move a couple lines around, and we'll start the sparge process. Okay, so now we're asking for mash heat off. We could leave it here on indefinitely if we want, but we're done with this. I'm ready to turn it off. And now this is for our sparge. I set that for 40 minutes because I want a sparge between 45 minutes and an hour. So at 40 minutes, this will go off as an alarm. It's just, again, advising me it's about time to turn the HLT heat off and get ready to prepare for the boil. So anyway, I'm going to turn the mash pump off. There. And we'll pinch this line off, move it to the boil kettle. Turn this back on. We'll put the sparge line. This is off the solenoid valve down here. So whenever the float switch sends a signal to the controller, it will turn the solenoid valve on and it'll maintain a specific level at the float switch. Okay, now I'm going to set this valve just to set. Actually, looks pretty close. We just want a little bit of sparge coming in. This is going to set our flow to our boil kettle so that we get about 45 minutes to an hour, and we'll target 6.5 gallons for this 5-gallon batch. Okay, and right now we're flowing clear, fresh sparge water in on top of the grain, and this float switch right here will maintain our level for us automatically. So we don't have to try to match the flow rate into the kettle with the flow rate out of the HLT for the sparge. Right now you can see the sparge light is on, so we are flowing fresh water from the HLT through the valve to the top of the mash. And now it is off, so that's showing us that our float switch, we've reached the level that we wanted, and now it's turned off. So the combination of that float switch and the valve, solenoid valve, that's just going to maintain our level at the sparge. Met the 40-minute timer, so now it's asking if we want to turn our HLT heat off. I want to get about another 10 minutes, 15, maybe 20 minutes of sparge. So let's see what the system's showing us here. I'm going to leave this indefinitely. If we look at our HLT, our mash, you can see that we're still above the grain bed, which is good. And we wanted 6.5 gallons. And I'm almost at 5, so I'm a little bit slow on this right now, so we're going to end up probably closer to an hour. I might even open this valve just a little bit more to get more flow in there. So we're at about 5.5 gallons. I need another gallon to go. And we're still asking for the HLT heat off. You can see we're still maintaining 170 degrees or close to it on our HLT. So at this point, what I'm going to do, because we'll hold this temperature fairly good over the next 15 minutes, I'm just going to go ahead and kill the HLT heat, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up the boil heat so we can start cranking that temperature up. And you might want to notice too here that since now I'm doing the Sparge and all the lids are on all the time, you can see that our temperature is almost 160 degrees in the boil kettle. Which means that, you know, when you're trying to Sparge at 168 to 170, it's actually holding that pretty good. When I had to have this lid off, I was only getting about 140 degrees into the kettle. So you know the middle of your grain bed is not where it needs to be during Sparge. With the lid on, we can maintain higher grain bed temperatures, and we're going to be closer to our boil, so it won't take so long to get to boil. So I'm going to light this puppy up. I'm going to turn this off first. And with as much water as we have on top of here, we only have a gallon to go. We'll just pull some of the excess water out of the grain bed. Okay. Boil timer. And we're in the boil time mode now. Let's fire up the boil. Okay. So we're still going to maintain, we don't need to have the HLT heat pump on anymore, because that's just recirculating through here, and we're just going to take what's left off the grain bed and get to our 6.5 gallons. So we'll leave the mash pump on so we can continue to fill our boil kettle. We now have the boil heat on just to bring it up to temperature so we don't have to wait so long. And I'm going to go ahead and set the boil time. It's only a single hop. There are no aromatic hops or flavoring hops. It's just bittering hops. So I will add hops at the beginning of boil, but I will set a timer at the 15-minute mark, actually a couple minutes before then, so that I can put in my adjuncts, the yeast nutrient, the moss. I use a super moss, and then also I'll drop, I'll start the pump up to sanitize the counterflow chiller. So I want to set the boil time. We'll set it for 60 minutes, and this you can adjust up or down anywhere you want. But we'll set the boil time for 60 minutes, and with this we have a hop 1, and I'll just say yes, and that's at 59 minutes. I'll keep it there. Okay. And then hop 2, I'll say no. This has up to 5 hop additions between your starter boil and your end of boil. Actually, I'm sorry, hop 2, no, I will say yes. I'm going to put that at, let's make it about 15 minutes, maybe 17 minutes. So I have time to put the adjuncts in. And then hop 3 we'll just say no. And now it says boil heat start. We're going to start the boil heat. Timer start, because I've already started the boil heat. The timer start will hit when we actually see the rocking boil. So this means that we'll get our 60 minutes of boil. So when we get to that point, I'll hit this button and then the timer will start. Okay, it's now time to crank up the boil. I'm going to remove this. We've turned this valve off. I'm going to remove our mash line. Okay. We can set this anywhere. And we'll hook on, this is our wort pump for chilling. I'll go ahead and connect this up. And now we just wait till we get to boil temperature. I think I'll go ahead and put my hot spider in there. Actually, I'm going to leave the hop spider off to the side, leave the lid on, because the lid will help us get to boil temperature quicker. As soon as we get close to boil temperature, I'm going to remove the lid, throw the hop spider in, and then we'll get the boil started. Okay, so our boil is started, and we're now going to set the timer so we can get our 60 minutes on our boil. And let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so at 15 minutes, it will let me know when it's time to put in the yeast nutrient and the Irish moss, and then at 0 we'll shut everything down and do the cool. In the meantime, I've already started cleaning, so the HLT is already clean. There's leftover water in the MLT is out, and what I want to do is show you, besides adjusting the Sparge Arm up and down, there is this one nut that I use here to adjust, just to adjust the whole thing back and forth, and you just need to make sure that that's always loose so that you can pull it down. And the reason why you need a ½ inch to the bottom is to pull this out. Once your Sparge Arm is out, you clean it off and dump your grain. Time to hop. And if you'll remember, boil timer, we're now down to 16 minutes, so we're going to add the yeast nutrient and the super moss, and then we'll get the pump started here. And the timer will continue to count down, and we'll get the pump going. So I'm connected up to the pump. We're going to recirculate through, and then back in here we'll create a whirlpool action in here. We're set to go with the exception of it isn't primed, so I'll have to prime it. Okay. It should be primed. Go back in. And let's get the kettle pump going. And we are flowing. So this will give us a chance. If you look down there, you can see it kind of swirling around. This will get everything sanitized. And then in another 15 minutes, we'll begin to boil. So boil timer is now down to 1 minute left of the boil, and once this is finished, we'll set up the cooling lines for the counterflow chiller, chill the wort down, and pitch the yeast. This is the end of our brew day, and I think it goes to show you just how easy doing a step mash is here, because it's all automated by the controller. So it makes the brew day a little bit easier, although it is very hot here in Phoenix, in Arizona.